Kicked off today in India's 5-week election to choose a new parliament and prime minister. It's being billed as the most significant vote the country has seen in 4 decades, with Prime Minister Manmohan Singh gearing up to hand over power after 10 years in office. 15,000 candidates are vying for 543 seats in India's lower house of parliament. Our Sumina Udas has more.
It's the biggest election the world has ever seen. 814 million plus eligible voters will determine who will be prime minister. And this year, many say no matter which party wins, the country's in for a change.
This is the face of the Congress party, Rahul Gandhi's last rally before voting begins, and he's doubling down on the Congress party's secular ideology and populist economic model.
The 43-year-old is the scion of India's most powerful family. Gandhi's great-grandfather was the country's first prime minister. His father and grandmother also held that office. His Italian-born mother, Sonia Gandhi, heads the Congress party, in power for the past 10 years. But the Congress is losing favor amidst an economic slowdown and a spate of high-profile corruption scandals. In another part of Delhi, a different atmosphere.
Narendra Modi hasn't even arrived yet, but it feels like a rock concert. There's live music, a lot of views, and plenty of excitement.
Modi, one-time T-boy, now a household name. The Bharatiya Janata Party's prime ministerial candidate rose the ranks of a Hindu nationalist group before becoming Chief Minister of Gujarat, one of India's most successful states. His appeal, proven management, development and big business. But he has his critics. Some allege Modi didn't do enough to stop anti-Muslim riots in his state in 2002. More than 1,000 Muslims were killed. Modi denies those allegations. In India's Westminster-style parliamentary elections, the party, or more likely the coalition, with the majority of India's 543-seat lower house of parliament, chooses the country's next prime minister. Who will that be? What path will Indians pick? With India's growing economic clout, and when every 6th person in this world is Indian, what happens here in the next few weeks matters. Sumina Udas, CNN, New Delhi.
Corruption. Washington. He is the India specialist for the Eurasia Group. David, thanks so much for being with us today.
Pleasure.
So the list of frustrations on the part of voters very long. What is the BJP planning to do about it? How are they going to jumpstart growth?
Well, BJP just today announced its election manifesto, which is a little strange since the polling started today. 9 stages of polling that will last until May 12th. Corruption is the major issue, and Narendra Modi, the BJP's prime ministerial candidate, has probably the cleanest reputation of any BJP politician. So that is a key selling point for the BJP. Probably the key wild card in this election is the Aam Aadmi Party, the anti-corruption party that gained prominence in the New Delhi state elections in December. How well that party fares will depend to some degree on how well the size of the BJP's plurality and how well they'll be able to govern.
As we know well, whenever we look at any election, it's easy to make campaign promises, often very difficult to deliver after the fact. Are we confident that they will be able to usher in change, or the Congress Party on their platform will be able to take a different tack than we've seen the last 10 years?
Well, first of all, all polls indicate that the BJP will get a plurality. The question is how big a plurality. The Congress could lose up to half of its seats, current seats in the lower house of parliament. The BJP will do very well. The question is how well, and the question of how big a plurality means how many partners it will have to enlist and how much it will be able to pursue its agenda, either through cabinet decision-making or in parliament.
Yeah, it's always difficult under coalition, and yet the market seems to be eagerly awaiting change. Are their expectations running too high? Have they exceeded reality here?
That's been our view, yes, that the market has been over-enthusiastic and irrational exuberance about the prospects for a BJP government. We believe that the BJP government will be constrained not only by possible coalition politics, but also by hyper-partisanship in the parliament.
David, what's the role of young people here? We often talk, the numbers around this election are staggering. We talk about the population, and there definitely seems to be a shift. I'm reading a lot about these young people who see themselves as professionals, haven't reached the middle class status they want to. What's the role here of that voter group?
Well, there are up to 100 million new voters in this election alone, and they will play a key part in who will be the new, who will form the new government. And again, the agendas of the major parties speak to youth aspiration, making sure that there are adequate jobs, increasing the role of manufacturing in the economy, things like that. But clearly, the youth will play a pivotal role in this election. You're right.
Presumably, I mean, market expectations, investor expectations may be high, but so are the voters' expectations for change. What do you want to see to feel that India is on the right track? What's imperative? What do you want to see happen after the election to feel like these promises are going to be delivered on?
The first indication, the first signpost will really be the budget speech that the new government gives some 6 weeks, let's say, after the election results are in. I think that'll lay out more of an economic framework. Right now we have these election manifestos, which are very broad principles rather than specific action. There's no 100-day action plan what any of the governments or any of the political parties would do if they enter government. So the first specifics I think we'd get would be in the budget.
David, that is why we have that old cliche, the devil is in the details, because indeed it is. David Sloan.